Watching France 24. Time now for Asia Live. And today we're heading to Islamabad, where our Pakistan correspondent Taha Siddiqui is standing by. We're going to start with a look at the day's biggest headlines in Pakistan. And first up, attempts to diffuse tensions between Pakistan and its neighbour and rival India after a recent flare-up of violence in the disputed Kashmir region. What's the latest? Are they talking?
Well, we saw that yesterday Pakistan and India did a flag meeting between both the border polices from the Indian side and the Pakistani side. The military sat down together to discuss the 2003 ceasefire agreement again. We've seen that this year it has been the worst year in the last 10 years in which we saw the line of control violations from both sides. Earlier in January, the Indian military accused the Pakistani military of infiltrating into the Kashmiri side and killing their military personnel. Then we saw the Pakistani accusing the Indians of the same. But because of the fact that Nawaz Sharif has been adamant and stressing on the fact that we need to establish a peaceful dialogue and relationship with India, because of which we see that they are back again on track and they are back again talking and want to sort this out and move forward beyond this issue of the line of control violations.
Moving on now, one reason for the fraying ties between Pakistan and the US and all that entails, drone strikes and so on, has been Islamabad's relations with the Taliban. Pakistan to start talks with the Taliban soon. Where's that leading?
Well, we have seen that during this whole week, the Interior Ministry here has said that the talks with the Taliban are in their final stages. I mean, the preparation for them. They haven't revealed anything as to yet what the modus operandi of these talks will be. But we do know that Nawaz Sharif, again, who was elected in May 11 elections earlier this year, has been stressing on the fact that they need to talk to the Pakistani Taliban, which are based in the tribal areas. One of the reasons why they're pushing for this talks is because of the fact that in Afghanistan, the NATO and the United States also wants to talk to the Taliban in wake of the pullout that is happening next year from Afghanistan. So Pakistan feels that it also has a homegrown terrorism issue and homegrown militancy that it needs to counter. And for that, they have been stressing on the fact that talks are the way forward. And we're seeing that right now, the Interior Ministry is saying that that is something that we will see within the next few days coming up and how that will happen.
Siddiqui, thank you very much for that update from Pakistan. Staying with Pakistan and moving to Peshawar, now known as Pakistan's terror capital. It's the provincial capital closest to the restive tribal areas and the Afghan border, meaning it's becoming an attractive target for terror attacks. It was here that last month almost 100 Christians attending a Sunday Mass were killed in a suicide bombing. Our correspondents filed this report from Peshawar, where the war on terrorism is a daily nightmare.
As terror strikes Peshawar, its residents face a gloomy future. But for Mohammed Amin, it means more business. Just this month, he sold a record 150 coffins. Traditionally, Muslims bury their dead in a shroud, but Amin says that has not been the case recently.
The blast victims' bodies come in pieces. They need a coffin for burial. Sometimes the bodies are missing limbs, so whatever's remaining has to be put in a coffin. No one in my family wants my business to prosper. We all want peace. Our Pakistani brothers are dying in these terror attacks.
The Taliban frequent this city of 4 million since it is the gateway to the tribal belt, where many of such global terrorist networks are headquartered. Since September, Peshawar has seen its deadliest attacks in history. First, a church was targeted where more than 100 Christians lost their lives. In the same week, 2 more bombs targeted the civilians, killing another 50 people. Ever since these deadly attacks, security in the city has been tightened.
Come forward. Get out of the car. Show me your ID.
Police presence in the province has been doubled to 80,000 personnel, and checkposts have been set up at all sensitive spots. With the Taliban embedded within the local population, the police say anyone here is a potential militant.
We look for guns and explosives.
Is it common to find such things?
Yes, sometimes they hide them inside their shirts. Sometimes the explosives are in their shopping bags. We need to check them because the situation is really volatile, especially in Peshawar. The situation is really bad.
The counter-terrorism operations have disrupted the normal lives of Peshawar's citizens. A delegation of local traders has come to the police chief today, demanding him to remove the excessive security checks in Peshawar that are affecting their businesses. But for the police, they have no other option.
Have you shown him the daily threat alerts we get?
Yes, sir. I showed it to him and also to him.
This is happening daily, you know. 20 to 30 threats. We need the modern gadgets that the West has because we are fighting the same force who have modern arms and ammunition, and they have been fighting and sustaining against a Western army for so long in Afghanistan.
Despite the lack of resources, the police chief is convinced that the fight must go on. However, the ruling political leadership disagrees. At the provincial assembly session, legislators demand for a policy revision to deal with the Taliban. For this newly elected right-wing government, fighting the militants is not the sensible option any longer.
For 9 years, we were fighting the militants, under Musharraf's rule and then under the last government, but there was no result.
So what is the solution?
The only solution is to call a truce, to negotiate with them and invite them to the table for talks. Then you'll see results.
Observers feel the clear divide between those who are fighting the militancy on ground and the policymakers who want to talk has helped the Taliban gain strength. At this checkpost, the citizens of Peshawar have gathered to pay respect to 4 policemen who were shot dead by the Taliban last week. Unfortunately, such memorials have become a daily feature in their lives.
Taha Siddiqui, thank you very much for that update from Islamabad in Pakistan. That's all we've got time for, though, in this edition of Asia Live. You are watching France 24 live from Paris. More news and headlines just after the break with Stuart Norvold. Stay tuned.